Good evening and welcome to Chicago Tonight, Latino Voices. I'm Joanna Hernandez. On the show tonight.
It's not an either or. We can do both.
Mayor Johnson's new budget proposal sets aside $150 million to care for migrants. But will that be enough? Federal student loan payments are once again due after a nearly 3-year pause. Well, you should know. There's an astronomical event on the horizon this weekend. Local astronomer Joe Guzman on how you can safely watch it.
Latino artists have grown hand in hand with hip-hop's evolution.
And Sandra Triveño recommends some Latino hip-hop tracks to round out your Hispanic Heritage Month playlist. And now to some of today's top stories. Immigration advocates and some elected officials are calling on the Biden administration to extend work permits to everyone. Today, dozens gathered in Pilsen to demand work permits for longtime undocumented residents. It comes after the Biden administration last month expanded temporary protected status to more than 500,000 recent Venezuelan immigrants, making them eligible to apply for work permits. Immigration advocates say undocumented migrants or immigrants are sometimes forced to be paid under the table, leaving them open to exploitation.
We have two classes of people, workers who do not have permits, and they are abused every day. But having these permits, it's going to give them the chance to apply directly in companies, to apply for benefits. They're going to be able to gain benefits to support their families in a better way.
Domestic violence survivors are urging lawmakers to pass a bill aimed at protecting survivors from firearms. The legislation, Karina's Bill, is named in honor of Karina Gonzalez, who was killed in July in her Little Village home alongside her 15-year-old daughter, Daniela. Prosecutors say they were killed by Gonzalez's husband 2 weeks after she filed an order of protection against him. The bill would require law enforcement to remove a firearm from a home when a survivor is granted an order of protection.
It also closes the firearm ownership transfer loophole and adds dating partners and ex-dating partners as petitioners in the Firearm Restraining Order Act. Karina's bill makes common sense changes that can help us save the lives of domestic violence survivors here in Illinois.
Advocates hope the bill will pass during the Illinois General Assembly's fall veto session beginning later this month. Are you looking to get into the tech workforce? Well, this might be your chance. Illinois officials are announcing the launch of a paid training program by the Illinois Department of Innovation and Technology. Students enrolled with City Colleges of Chicago and Lincoln Land Community College will be able to sign up for the program, offering classes on cybersecurity and business infrastructure, among others.
Students in the program will be paid while they complete their training. And that training salary starts at $54,000, allowing us to attract and retain excellent workers for reliable state government jobs.
Up next, what Mayor Johnson's budget proposal means for thousands of asylum seekers in Chicago. That's right after this.
Chicago Tonight, Latino Voices, is made possible in part by the support of these donors.
Mayor Brandon Johnson's proposed budget for 2024 sets aside $150 million to cover the cost of sheltering, feeding, and caring for the families sent to Chicago from the southern border. However, that is less than half of what the city expects to spend to care for Chicago's newest arrivals through the end of this year.
Chicago is a place strong enough to welcome and embrace newcomers while honoring our commitments to those who are already here, especially residents of communities that have long suffered from neglect and disinvestment.
WTTW News reporter Heather Sharon joins us now with the latest on the escalating crisis. Now, Heather, I want to start off, give us an update on the state of the migrant crisis.
In the past week, Chicago has gotten 63 buses from the southern border carrying more than 3,600 people. That has exploded the number of men, women, and children forced to wait in police stations at O'Hare Airport for a space in one of the city's shelters. In all, more than 3,700 people are in police stations and at the airport, while nearly another 11,000 people are in city shelters.
And that number just keeps increasing. Now, Johnson asked the city council to embark in $150 million to care for the migrants next year. That won't be enough money, will it, Heather?
No, it won't. Even by the mayor's own projection, the city is going to need at least $200 million to care for the migrants. And even that is significantly less than the $363 million the city expects to spend through the end of December to care for the migrants. Now, I asked First Deputy Chief of Staff Cristina Pacion-Zayas why the city did not ask, why the mayor's office, I should say, didn't ask the city council for the full amount. And she said it was purposeful to put the governor's office on notice and the federal government on notice that the cost of caring for these people sent to Chicago should not fall solely on the shoulders of Chicago taxpayers, and that the city desperately needs more help.
And at this point, what are the chances that the state will send additional money to the city to care for hundreds and thousands of asylum seekers?
It is unclear at best. Both Governor J.B. Pritzker and House Speaker Emmanuel Chris Welsh told reporters this week that they do not plan to move a supplemental budget measure through the fall veto session, which is coming up in just a few days. Instead, Cristina Pacion-Zayas told me that she thinks there are other ways for the state to provide Chicago with additional aid, perhaps by sweeping up money unspent but appropriated for other purposes.
And last question here, what's the status of the mayor's plan to open these massive tents?
Well, that plan was announced more than a month ago now, but the mayor's office has yet to identify where those winterized base camps would go. We asked Cristina Pacion-Zayas what the holdup was. She said to expect an announcement imminently as the mayor's office is working to finalize answers to those questions.
Well, thank you so much, Heather Cerrone. And you can read Heather's full story on our website. That's WTTW.com/news. We all knew the day was coming. Federal student loan payments have resumed for the first time in 3 years. This after a pandemic-related pause. Many were hopeful for President Joe Biden's $400 billion loan forgiveness plan, but a divided Supreme Court blocked those efforts, arguing the administration needed Congress endorsement before undertaking the costly program. More than 1 million borrowers in Illinois are now navigating student debt amid high inflation. Joining us now with more on the local impact are Priscilla Urustegui, a 2020 graduate of National Louis University. She's now a program support and logistics coordinator at the group Waukegan II College. Tierra Diaz, success program director at Bottom Line Chicago. And Jonathan Lopez, a Lincolnwood real estate agent with Century 21 Circles. Now, thank you all for joining us today. There's a lot to talk about. Priscilla, I want to start with you. What has your experience been like with student loans post-college?
It's honestly been crazy. It's hard trying to get back into the world, not wanting to pursue bigger things, wanting to go back to school, thinking back in how I struggled doing 3 jobs, going to school full time, and not wanting to continue to do that, to be able to pay off my loans and to wanting to live a life where I could give back to my parents or just live a normal life. So it's a struggle, but it's something that it's kind of gotten used to, even though it shouldn't be like that. But it's just a learning experience for sure.
Because that now is in the back of your mind. Now, how has your debt affected your ability to make big purchases?
It's been hard. I know I got lucky enough to be able to purchase a car earlier during the pandemic, but now that I want to give back to my parents and help them out with their own expenses, it's kind of stopped me in that aspect. I either have to put them first or have to put my education first, and I have stopped in wanting to pursue my education career because I do want to give back to my parents first. So that's kind of the hardships of it. But I've learned to, cope with it. But yeah, that's something that's always been in the back of my head, and I've had to
It's
pursue
a
it.
struggle in having to balance. Now, the average student loan debt for Illinoisans is nearly $38,000. Almost 55% of the more 1 million borrowers in Illinois are under the age of 25. Tiara, I want to go to you. Your organization helps students navigate financial aid. What concerns do you hear from students applying to college?
So I think that public loans have become a big topic of conversation and a topic that is reaching students early in high school and even younger than that. And the conversations are a little overwhelming and potentially scary, not only for students, but also for their families. Hearing stories about the amount of debt that's accrued, it can really make college seem like not an option, not a feasible option. But unfortunately, student loans are the pathway for many students to be able to access a college education. And so I do think that with the topic of student loans being so as popular as it is now, it's really impacting the decision making within families where young students and parents have to have conversations about whether or not it's feasible, and also conversations long term about things such as what they should study in school, what kind of career they should pursue, what kind of outlook that career has, and essentially the return on investment to really see if it's worthwhile.
And that's what Bar Alarm does.
Yes.
Work with students and families as well to try to guide them through that process.
Yes.
And Jonathan, student loans can be a major roadblock when pursuing other financial goals like buying property. How should someone with student loans determine if they should buy a home or not?
Sure. So, with student loans, it's important to know and understand that it's definitely possible to still buy a home, buy a property, a building, whatever they, prefer. The way student loans work, I've asked all around multiple lenders, me as a realtor, my 2 cents on that is that in order to buy a house with a student loan, it's going to depend obviously on how much loan you have. The higher the loan, the higher the debt, the harder it is going to be to buy a house. But essentially, it is definitely possible when you buy a house, you either buy a house from a Freddie Mac originator or from a Fannie Mae. And for example, Fannie Mae looks at 1% of your student debt, meaning that if your loan is $30,000 in student debt, then that means that 1% of that will be $300. Now those $300 are going to affect on your monthly mortgage. Let's say the bank qualifies you for a $2,000 mortgage. It will be $2,000 minus $300. So now you only qualify for $1,700. So obviously the higher the debt, the harder it is to buy a home, but it's definitely possible.
But it's possible, and you've seen it. Have you seen it working with some clients?
100%. I've seen it. A lot of my clientele is, they have student loans. I've had student loans in the past myself. I was able to buy a house. So yeah, 100%. But it's definitely possible. There's many programs out there that can help out with this. But yeah, definitely. I mean, there's different, some tips I would suggest, to the viewers out here that want to buy a home and have student loans is, don't refrain yourself from buying a big car payment in order to be able to afford a home, pay off your credit cards, stuff like that in order to be able to, in the near future, be able to buy a home. Always pay off your debt.
Different aspects to think about, just how you talked about buying a car during COVID because your loan payments stopped.
Correct.
When you started exploring college, did you understand what you were undertaking in terms of your loans?
I did not. I actually wish I had so I work with Latino College, and I wish I had them to support me and be like, hey, the grades that you're doing, the things that, to look at schools that, fit me better, financially, what goes better, how to find scholarships. I didn't really have that support there. I had my sister who was older, but so she was out. So I did really have to navigate on finding what was best fit financially for me. And unfortunately, although there was one that was helpful financially, and it was National Louis, there are also other options, but I was not aware of them. So I kind of just went with the best bets. So unfortunately, yeah, I do wish I had more of that support, but it was.
Now you can help other people.
Yeah.
And research has also just suggested that blanket loan forgiveness is less effective when it comes to helping those who need it most, meaning it helps higher income borrowers more than lower income ones. Tiara, do you find that to be true?
I think that really depends on the situation. I think one thing that our organization really aims to do is just ensure that students fully understand what their options are upon graduation when it comes to finding the right repayment plan, and then also exploring different loan forgiveness programs. So not only supporting students while they're in college year to year to minimize the loan debt that they're accruing as they're as they are continuing in school, but also being able to access the programs that are a good fit for them. There are a lot of really great programs out there, but unfortunately it's difficult for folks to learn how to access that, and sometimes the processes for those programs can be really difficult to navigate. And so our role is really just ensuring that students are able to take advantage of those opportunities.
What are some of the reactions from students when they get accepted to maybe the college of their dream? And they're like, yes, I can make it, or I can, I am going to be able to do it.
So our students are incredibly excited about this next step, and a lot of them have really ambitious dreams about careers that they wish to pursue, dream schools. And with our organization taking a strong stance on affordability, we know that financing your education is a big part of that puzzle, and sometimes it leads to conversations, oftentimes difficult conversations, about whether or not that dream school is the right fit. And sometimes it's a conversation about where we might need to make compromises in terms of where we're attending or what we're studying, and our role is really just to ensure that students understand the financial component to their college choice and can see the impact that that is going to have on their life and their financial health upon graduation.
And Jonathan, I want to go to you. You did mention that you have or have had student loans.
Yes.
What advice, you mentioned some of the tips, what advice at this point with someone who has a large amount of loans, what's the first step or the advice that you give them to one of your clients?
Yeah, definitely. I would say first off and foremost, approach your accountant, a lender, to be able to guide you and find a strategic plan in order to, get your savings together, get your, taxes and all that stuff together in order to buy a house. The one thing to know too is that, once for a lot of viewers out here that have student loans and that maybe they were in school or stuff, it's important to know that all the lenders ask for is a 2-year job history. And if you just graduated today and you want to go out for a job tomorrow, but you've been in school, it's important to know that as long as you have 2 transcripts, you'll be able to, to get a loan.
The good thing that it's possible.
Yeah, it's definitely possible.
Well,
yeah,
thank
100%.
you all for your input. Now, our thanks to Priscilla Urustegui, Tierra Diaz, and Jonathan Lopez. Up next, how to enjoy this weekend's partial eclipse of the sun. But first, a look at the weather. With all its city lights, Chicago can be a tough place for astronomy lovers. But light pollution doesn't present a problem for the next big astronomical event. A partial solar eclipse coming this Saturday. Chicago astronomer Joe Guzman says it's a great chance for city dwellers to experience this dance of the moon and the sun in preparation for a total solar eclipse next spring.
Hi space fans, I'm Joe Guzman, the Chicago astronomer, back again to share with you how to prep for the upcoming October partial solar eclipse. The big event, of course, is the total solar eclipse of April 2024. More on that on the future segment, but on Saturday, the 14th of October, the sun, moon, and earth will align in a practice run for the big event next year. And here's what you should know about the event. As the moon orbits our planet, the distance varies. Closer to the earth, we witness a total solar eclipse. An incredible life-changing event when day turns into a darkened twilight evening. Stars fill the sky, and the entire solar disk is covered by the moon. And we observe the wispy, delicate corona of the sun. But on the 14th of October, the moon is slightly farther away from us, and a result not completely covering the disk of the sun. These solar events are called annular eclipses in what is referred to as the Ring of Fire display. Unfortunately, Chicago is not in the path of maximum coverage for this event, but we will experience a partial solar eclipse, meaning that the moon will take bites out of the sun as it passes between us for 2 hours and 45 minutes. And we can easily follow the celestial event of the moving spheres. First contact starts at 10:37 a.m., maximum coverage is at 11:58, and last contact ending at 1:22 p.m. Chicago time. The moon will cover the sun for a maximum of 42%, and you just may notice an ever so slight decrease in the sun's light and a drop in temperature at this time of maximum coverage. Now, how do you safely observe this event of the moon getting in the way of the sun? First, serious precautions. Solar events are very dangerous to observe. Never use sunglasses, wrappers, or other non-approved solar eyewear. Only use certified solar glasses, such as these, to look directly at the sun. And also never, I mean never, point an unfiltered telescope or binoculars toward the sun. Immediate damage will occur, and I want you to view my next astro segment, so please be careful. Our Chicago Astronomer telescopes and binoculars all have solar filters at the ready for safe viewing, and you can also project the image of the sun through tiny holes poked through foil, cardboard, or other handy media you may have laying around. This is what you do. Face away from the sun and allow the light to shine through the pinholes onto a sheet of white paper. You'll observe little small eclipse crescents. Also, look to the ground during the event near trees, as the leaves will act as mini projectors and display the crescents for you. Now, how can city sky lovers get a better and closer view to connect with this partial solar eclipse? If the weather permits, my Chicago Astronomer crew will be at the 606 Bloomingdale Trail, and right behind me, and the event will be on Saturday, the 14th of October. We will be on site from 10 a.m. till 1:30 p.m. and we'll have filtered telescopes for exciting up-close views of the sun of this semi-rare eclipse to share with our sky-loving fans. Look for us at the Western Trailhead right here at Ridgeway Avenue and the 606 Trail. Free, family-friendly, and it's a weekend, so there's no excuse to miss this. For the Chicago Astronomer, I'm Joe Guzman. Urban astronomy done right.
I need to make sure to get some of those glasses to see the eclipse. You'll find more on that eclipse viewing event on our website. Since its official beginnings in the 1970s Bronx, hip-hop has become an essential part of the musical landscape across Las Americas. For the final week of Hispanic Heritage Month, music journalist Sandra Trevino wants to point you to the Latino artists weaving traditional music into their takes on the uniquely American genre of hip-hop.
Let's finalize our trip across the musical landscape of Las Americas by digging into a relatively young genre that has impacted Latino musicians, hip-hop. Whether it's Mellow Man Ace, the first Latino MC to get a gold record, or artists like Kid Frost or Lisa M, some of the OGs, to more current rappers like Residente, Ana Tijoux, Maria Advertencia Lírica, or Chicago's own Juanito Zarate, Latin artists have grown hand in hand with hip-hop's evolution, and I love that some of these artists are using their culture to incorporate it into the music. As some of you may know, it was hip-hop's 50th anniversary recently, but I got to pondering, is this true? Because underground music and culture takes a while to develop and get to the main audience or main public. So I decided to ask a few Latino hip-hop artists what they thought, and this is what MC Sorcerer had to say.
It's a 50-year anniversary of when Kool Herc threw his first party as an official hip-hop DJ. But the truth is that in the 60s, there was a group called The Last Poets, and there was also Blowfly. So it's technically not 50 years old, but that's the metric that they use to record it, is by DJ Kool Herc's first party in New York.
So MC Sorcerer leads the project Kaczynski Composite Sketch. They are a new project that was recently signed to Chicago-based record label No Se Discos. His debut solo album is titled Deviled Ham on Rye. This kid is super talented. He's got brains, he's got the beats, he's got the bravado, and I like how he uses hip-hop to try to make sense of his philosophical musings.
No tengo acento si rapeo y sin tilde en el cuaderno, hamburguesas sin repollo y salsa rosa de relleno. Cargo cuento de Damasceno donde gano nombre nuevo, un nombre sobre lengua, otro nombre sobre seno. Lo digo en castellano y lo digo sin gagueo, que nací con sol acuario bajo cielo maraveño. Si estoy fanfarroneando cargo el límite en el leo y voy cambiando para el inglés porque lo digo menos feo.
Another artist greatly influenced by hip-hop is Toronto-based rapper Luwap, who co-founded the group Los Poetas. And I love Luwap's music because he uses it to share stories of families like himself, immigrants and refugees who he believes brings poetry and music as a gift to the countries where they end up settling. The music and the poetry that he's bringing is also reflected in his new album titled La Ofrenda. You'll hear Latin rhythms like son clave and cumbia. The video that we're gonna watch right now, better have some tissue ready because it's gonna get you in the feels.
No soy de aquí, no soy de allá. Mi vida les voy a cantar. No soy de aquí, no soy de allá. Yo nací para soñar. Aquí él vino a buscar a su ser, porque dicen que allá ya no tiene nada que lo frene, este sueño no muere. Huele, huele y viva como quiere.
Finally, women power. I'd like to share something from Afro-Cuban artist La Dame Blanche. She's a percussionist and is known for her talent on the flute. And she reflects her beliefs, her spirituality, and her religion in her music. She combines hip-hop with dancehall, with reggae, and with cumbia. And I love this song because it also incorporates some funk and some jazz.
You'll find links to these songs and the rest of Sandra Trevino's Hispanic Heritage Month playlist on our website. And that's our show tonight. Join us tomorrow night at 5:30 and 10 for the Weekend Review. Now, from all of us here at Chicago Tonight, Latino Voices, I'm Joanna Hernandez. Stay healthy and safe. Good night.
Closed captioning is made possible by Robert A. Clifford and Clifford Law Offices, a Chicago personal injury and wrongful death firm whose attorneys embrace a culture of philanthropy and service by volunteering their time, expertise, and guidance to help others in the greater Chicago community.